You know, this is our 11th episode.
That's pretty amazing.
I didn't think we were going to get past 2. Yeah. All right. Welcome to Tuhon and Son, episode number 11. Dad, you got a whole bunch of stuff happening this month, and I think we should let the people know. All 7 of them. Like, let's...
Yeah, well, in...
all 11 of them, one per every episode.
Okay, in June 21st and 22nd, we have Guru Dan Inasanto, the one, the only, coming to Gamma. He'll be teaching a seminar for 2 days. Anybody have Facebook, they can look up Guru Dan Inasanto seminar in Montreal, and they'll be able to find it. Or the Gamma page, we have event page connection to it. Let's see, what else are we doing? I have a seminar I'm teaching in Ottawa on the 15th, Father's Day.
Yeah.
And that'll be at N1. It's on Preston.
You know, I might join you, Dad. I might. We'll see, you know.
What do you prefer doing, the Dog Brothers or the Pekiti-Tirsia? We're doing 3 hours of each. We're going to be doing 3 hours of Dog Brothers stick fighting technique in the morning from 9 to 12. And then from 1 to 4, we're going to be going over Pekiti-Tirsia Kali.
That is, and this is all for one price, or is you pay for it individually?
Well, Michel Douaron, who's putting it together, Michel D, he is, we've come up with an idea that if we charge $40 per section or $60 for both of them, it's a pretty good deal.
All right. That is a good, wow. I just did the math. Took me a second there. If you'll excuse my non-comprehensiveness, it is very hot in here. All right, so you were just in Timmins.
I was just in Timmins last weekend. I was seeing Matt Poulin and the Total Martial Arts Center. I did a 3-part seminar. We did a little bit of Kali, a little bit of no-gi grappling, and Muay Thai. It was really good. They had a lot of people there. It was really nice to see those guys, and they are getting better. They are really getting good. I mean, they're already really good, but it's kind of nice when you see people making really big steps between the times you see them. So these guys, they're the real deal. They've, they compete in MMA, they compete in kickboxing and Thai boxing, they compete in jiu-jitsu, and they win. It's not just a participatory thing. It's, they actually bring home the gold.
Yeah. It's nice to know that your experiences in Timmins is so great. Like, I traveled there as a musician about, I don't know, 8 years ago, and hey, it sucked. but I was playing.
You didn't go to the right tempo.
I was playing a show. I was playing the last show of my first Canadian tour, and I would find out later that week I had pneumonia. So Timmins didn't suck. I did. Being alive sucked.
Wow.
Regardless of where I was.
Not dying doesn't suck, though.
No. Okay, so, anything particular? Well, you've been doing seminars for years and stuff. What's a seminar that comes to mind that says, oh, man, that was fun? Is it location-driven? Is it people-driven? Like...
It's a bit of both, because that's the thing about a seminar, especially when you're meeting a whole bunch of new people. You really don't know what kind of people are going to come to a seminar. I mean, if you know everybody personally, well, of course, you can pretty well project it. But sometimes, I mean, it's like a rock and roll show. You use that analogy quite a bit. I'm going to use that myself.
It's not much of an analogy as it's my only means of interpretation.
Well, it's an analogy for me, okay?
Okay.
Anyway, so sometimes you see the people, and, they may be playing the same show with the same set list every night, but sometimes it all comes together. I mean, the timing, everybody in the band is on time, and everything is working, and you just know it. And I don't really believe in magic, but it just scintillates. It just crackles the air. And sometimes, of course, they're saying, okay, well, we're going to record a live album on this date. But sometimes, if they just recorded every show, they would have gotten the best show. But sometimes you don't know these things. But seminars are sometimes so awesome because it's not just it's not just what you learn, it's what you want to learn, it's what you're ready to learn, and it's what the teacher's ready to teach. And when all those things come together, it's really, really quite amazing.
All this passion.
Oh, sorry.
All this passion in this hot box. We're recording it.
But we're far away from each other, so it's okay.
What would you say is a seminar gone wrong? Like, what could people who put on seminars do to prevent things from going wrong?
Well,
I mean, you can't control the human element, but there are certain guidelines, I guess.
Well, there are certain people who just, when they do a seminar, they think that somehow they're going to be able to impose their will. But in a sense, if you're presenting a seminar, basically you're like a rock and roll promoter. The act comes in, they have their riders, they have what they do, and they want to get paid. The promoter has this idea that, well, he's going to advertise and get all these people to come in. But sometimes, well, bus lines go on strike. Sometimes people have accidents and don't get there. I mean, there's all sorts of little things. So
sometimes there's snow.
Sometimes there's snow.
We're Canadian. Sometimes there's snow.
Sometimes there's snow. Or or flooding in the spring after the snow melts, and or in the winter. In the summertime, it's so darn hot that the eggs fry themselves on the sidewalks and stuff.
Yeah, it's like I kind of always grimace my face to Canadian stereotypes, but when it was still snowing in April, I was a little embarrassed to communicate with any of my American friends. Like, oh, how's the weather up there, man?
Well, when I put my dog sled away, it'll be fine. Anyway, but there are all sorts of things that can go wrong, but there's so many things that can go right. It's just a magical thing. And it used to be that seminars were very, very rare. I remember the very first seminar I did. Actually, I'm going to expose myself, for the martial arts nerd I really am. I was about 15 years old, and I was doing a karate seminar. There was a guy by the name of Masaki Tsuroka. He's a karate teacher who lives in Japan. No, he lives in Japan. He lives in Toronto. And he was the president of the National Karate Association. My teacher, Tran Quang Ba, was the vice president of this association. It was a traditional karate association. We practiced Chito-ryu Karate Do. Anyway, he came up to Montreal and did a seminar. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Linus in Peanuts, but he had this thing where you
told the story last time.
I did? Well, never mind. Okay. But that's how I felt. Did I tell you the story about wanting that yellow belt?
Well, you know what? This is kind of interesting. Everything we say is now public domain, and you can listen to this in our Road to Dan Innocento episode.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just felt like a total geek because I thought I'd do that, and so sometimes
if you want to know what happens, you have to listen to the previous episode.
Anyway,
synchronization.
Anyway, seminars are great because they give you an opportunity to learn information, to basically take information in I guess you could call it, in a very unfettered way. That's one of the reasons why Guru Inasanto is one of my favorite seminar presenters. Going to a Guru Dan Inasanto seminar is like drinking from a fire hose. And people go like, what do you mean? I say, well, because he gives you so many techniques over such a short period of time that you can, by the end of the seminar, your head is spinning. You don't even remember what you did. Well, that's true for the people who have never done that stuff before. But other people, it's kind of like a repainting of the same surface. And so, oh, wow, a fresh coat of paint. Maybe you get to see certain things, certain nuances that you never saw before. Yeah. And so each experience is different from the people doing it. And so as a result, for Guru Inasanto, it's amazing because he's kind of like a library. He has gone around. He has trained with so many different people in so many different things that his frame of reference is so great. And he never brings a judgmental feeling to what he's doing. He never goes, this is the best technique. He always kind of frames it in going, well, and then, of course, because he was a student of, the highest ranked student of Bruce Lee, people kind of go, oh, wow, yeah. And then they kind of allocate, they kind of put what he says down to, well, he's just being shy or he's just being, not bragging. But if you're an educator, you have to be balanced in that kind of stuff. You can't just say, hey, well, my stuff is so great and yours isn't. He would never say that anyway, but you can't say that. You have to allow for the fact that, as great as Muhammad Ali was, he was beaten a couple of times. Mm-hmm. As great as Sugar Ray Leonard was, he was beaten a couple of times. I mean, there are only very few people who go through their life being undefeated in those things which they try to get to.
But I think you need to be defeated. That's the whole thing. You need adversity. You need to be defeated to come back and be better. Like if you're undefeated, like how could you possibly? But if they get knocked back to earth sometimes.
Well, true, but sometimes there is nobody there who's to defeat you. I mean,
who will make the god bleed?
Well, I guess, but there's. I mean, yes, losing once or twice sort of brings back into focus what you actually are trying to do, but to lose isn't, there's no joy in losing.
Oh,
there
no,
is, but there's an awful lot of knowledge in it.
I'm a card-carrying member of the Failure Club. I'm like, welcome back.
I don't want to talk about that. That hurts.
Yeah. So seminar-wise, this is what we're apparently talking about today. Mm-hmm. What's a seminar that you've gone to that you said, like, as a fanboy martial arts, like, if you're geeking out, like, you've done enough of yours. What was one besides Danny's that you've gone to that you've, went to an exotic location or just particularly felt that this seminar changed up way I think about doing something, or just you?
Okay, well, actually, I have one of those stories.
Good, because my question, I was all over the place.
In 1998, I went to a Pekiti-Tirsia seminar in it was in the Philippines, and it was a place. It was at the old Clark Air Force Base, Subic Bay. In the Philippines, and we had a week-long seminar. There actually was 2-week-long seminar with Tuhon Philip Gelinas, and this was the year of the centenary of their, the centenary, because that's when they stopped being run by the Spanish, and the Americans came in and helped them out. Anyway, they had this thing, the centennial, and there were a lot of people there from all over the world. It was really quite amazing. I mean, there's an awful lot of people who are all Tuhons in Pekiti-Tirsia now, and in the last few years, a lot of them been promoted, like Tuhon Uli Weidel from Germany, and Leslie Buck from Austin, Texas, and of course Tim Wade, and there are a lot of people, Loki Jorgensen. Who else was there? I'm sort of, my brain is
faltering. When you start to name people, you kind of just start mumbling.
Anyway, so there were so many people there, and it was really kind of amazing. So we had people there from the States, we had people there from Canada. My good friend Mark Denny, the spiritual leader of the Dog Brothers, was there for that weekend. Really good buddy. Our guy became a really good buddy. Barry Danalan, he was there, and what was amazing about Barry and I. Where he wanted to go back to the States, but he had a plane ticket, and so we he was on my airplane, and it was kind of weird. It was like the hotel rooms were really ridiculously expensive, and so basically he slept on my floor. Now, I'm sorry, Barry, but there just wasn't enough room in my bed, and you're not my type of guy, so what can I say? Anyway, but he was an awesome guy, and we had had some good conversations there, and we, even though we don't live together, or when I say together, we don't live in the same city, we don't live very near each other. It's always really, really great when I get to see him. He's a musician. He's been, he's an awesome musician. But I'm not going to make myself look goofy by saying, "Oh yeah, and then all that stuff." But put it this way: he played with Bruce Springsteen on his last tour as part of his horn section, so that should give everybody an idea about how good this guy is. Anyway, so he's a really great Cali practitioner, and so there's all sorts of guys that were there. And on the last day, Tuhon Gahe was putting us through our paces, and we were going crazy. We did some jungle environment survival training, and we did all sorts of stuff, and we did some sparring, and we did all sorts of really, because the sparring part wasn't hard because we were already members of the Dog Brothers, but we were doing all sorts of stuff. And then at the end, Tuhon Gahe was putting us through our paces. And I kind of had this transcendent experience, almost as if I had out-of-body experience, because he started feeding me, and I started doing things. I mean, this is not me seeing myself doing it, but I was just doing stuff, and he was just flowing with techniques. And normally I'm Mr. Stumblebum, oops, or is that, oh, got stabbed there, oh, got hit there. But for that day, everything was amazing. It was just, I just felt weird, and felt like things were happening, and he would do stuff, and I would pick it up, and it was really, really, really weird. I'm not a spiritual guy, and I had a spiritual experience as not a spiritual guy, so it was kind of weird. I came down to earth afterwards, but for that time period, it was pretty awesome.
That's great. And okay, so how long have you been doing seminars for?
Giving them, taking them, what?
Giving them.
Well, my first seminar I gave, I guess, was pretty early on. It was just, my first seminar I gave was part of the Emperado Kajukempo Association. That was put together, when Sijo Emperado of Kajukempo was basically, he had a heart bypass operation in the early 80s, and then he was trying to get back on track, and he was staying with Vince Black in National City, a suburb of San Diego. We put together an organization called the Emperado Kajikembo Association, and it was myself and about 8 other people who I won't name any of them, because if I can't rename all of them, I don't want to embarrass myself by not naming everybody. But
you have Dasher and Dancer and Dancer and Vixen.
Yeah, okay.
Comet and Cupid and Mickey and Goofy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, so we had this group of people, and we basically, our aim was to support Cedro Emperado, because what happened is that there were a lot of guys who had moved away from Hawaii in the 60s and come to North America and set up their own organizations. And the one reality is, when you set up your own organization, you don't always, I mean, you need to basically, it's like if your dad, I mean, if you move out of your dad's house, what do? Call up your dad and say, can you come over here and tell me how to put my living room together? No, you do it yourself. When you have kids, you don't say, Dad, when should I do this? You basically go off and do it. So the problem is, when you do that, sometimes we, especially in martial arts, because we often maintain a very strong contact with our previous instructor, but sometimes we don't. And so as a result, Cedro was kind of left swimming around. There were a lot of people who were just saying, look, we can do it on our own. And, here he was, post-operation, and Vince Black said, okay, you come live with me for the moment, and we'll do it. And he was there with his wife, Linda, and we put together, from about 1985, we started putting together this Emperado Kajikembo Association. We started doing seminars, and I started, as an instructor from Canada, I started teaching some of it. And this was a couple of years after I started doing Kali with Tuhon Gahi. I started in 1981 with him, and we started showing stuff. And it's kind of funny, because recently, a video that I did not authorize, I was just showing, somebody had said, oh, could you do that stuff that you showed, the striking patterns, could you show that to me on videotape so I could come home and practice it? So I went, oh, okay, sure. And so I did that. And then somebody, recently this thing was put on the internet, which was like, because if you're trying to show something, for example, if you're doing a song, if somebody videotapes you and your band playing a song, okay, then you did the best you could be at that time. But if you're just rehearsing, and halfway through the rehearsal, you stop and, okay.
Oh, you do not have to tell me some of the embarrassingly bad live shots. Like when you're like, oh man, this show's going great. I hope someone videotapes it. Never happens. Sound check. Someone always videotapes that,
Right, and you're stopping halfway through. So
yeah.
Anyway, we did this. He videotaped that, and then there was a form. I was teaching one of our forms from Kajikembo, and somebody wanted to record that, but I was doing it slowly. I wasn't doing it for presentation. I was doing it for instruction. So it was done slowly, and it was like, oh my gosh! And then you realize after a while that there's almost nothing you can do to, you just sort of, be true to yourself. So look, people ask you, because there's some stuff on there on the internet that is so horrific for the people doing it. I feel bad. I want to crawl inside my own skin when I see them. There's one on Taekwondo, and these people are jumping around. They look like, they look like they're running on a hot tin roof, because their feet are going, and all over the place, and they're trying to kick. And they all pass their black belt exam, and it's kind of like, oh my gosh. You think it's a joke to begin with, but it's not a joke. It's just horrible. And, we all think that when we don't perform at our best, that's what it looks like. So.
Okay, but what about your first seminar?
Well, that was my first seminar.
Okay,
that was the first seminar I did. It was in.
Well, what was going through your mind? Like, were you let's get the human element,
because
you're nervous. You're like, people are going to say, like, now I was just looking at your Timmins, your Timmins seminar, and it's just like, like master of whatever, and I'm kind of like, yeah. Dad, are you a master at something?
Exactly. Yeah. My children don't respect me anyway.
It's true.
Anyway, so no, but what was interesting about it was the fact that when you were dealing with your own people who you train with and their friends, and this larger family of martial artists, people kind of accept you or don't accept you based on your own abilities. But what happens is when you meet a bunch of people who are people you've never met before, the old joke of you don't get the second chance to make a first impression really takes effect, because if you look like a goof, you will look like a goof no matter how well you do after that. And if you don't, you can screw up forever after that, and people will remember the time you didn't look like a goof. Yeah. So there's an awful lot of that stuff going on. But I was very fortunate. I mean, while we had a lot of people there, we had some kids in from Mexico who came up because we're very close to the Mexican border in San Diego, and so we had a participant there. We had some people from further up. We had some people from San Francisco area, the Bay Area, who came down. We had some people. That's the Kajukenbo one in '85.
Yeah,
and that was the beginning. We had the Emperado Kajukenbo Station before it kind of folded its wings and folded its tent and went off. It was open from about, not open, it was pretty well available from maybe 85 to about 91 or 92. And we had seminars. Well, we had seminars in San Diego for the first few years, and we had them in San Jose, and then we had them in Dallas, Texas, and we had them in Maui. So it was growing. And then the International Kajukenbo Association re-established itself, and the idea was that it was going to be a larger, more organized version of what we were doing. And it basically crashed and burned in about 3 years because there was, the problem with politics, look at any political group, invariably that the only way that they establish themselves is by screaming about how horrible the other groups are. And it's not a cooperation. It's not like, it's almost like, when you hear people talk about how to run a country, well, if you do it my way, it'll work better, but otherwise you're just wrecking everything and we're just waiting until you die so we can take over. And so it's like, it's not really cooperative, but that's the way power is. Power for people. They want to control. You want to run things, and the only way to run things is by making sure the other people don't. So that's kind of what happens in every political organization. Now things are a little bit better, but even then, it's kind of like the KSDI has reestablished itself. And we have an organization that meets every once in a while, or at least once a year in Las Vegas. We've come to the conclusion that Las Vegas seems to be the best place to run a yearly seminar because people want to be able to go and have fun. Mm. People want to be able to go and then not go. How can I say that? So they want to be able to go, and when you go to Las Vegas, there's Cirque du Soleil, and there's gambling, and there's all these things you can do. And there you can drive out to the desert, and you can go to some place and shoot machine guns, and there you can do that. But if you go to some smaller town, no matter where it is, it just doesn't have the scintillating thing. And when you go to Vegas, since so many people go to Vegas, you can get a cheap flight in. Mm-hmm. You can get hotels that don't cost you $150. You can get really, really reasonable stuff if you do it well. And if you're a good gambler, my God, you get it all for free. Yeah. So, the Vegas thing seems to be something that has taken hold. A lot of martial arts things happen in Vegas too. So we're just following, a really good lead. But we were there. We've been in Vegas for many, many years. And now we're a bit more mature as a group. And so people are now looking, okay. A lot of martial arts groups are like that. The story, they talk about the crabs in a bowl, and one crab tries to get out, and all the other crabs, they don't want them to get out. They want them to pull them back in. Because the idea is, we're not looking for somebody else to be successful. We're looking for somebody else to be not more successful than we are. So, but now that has happened less now. People are realizing that if the name Kajukenbo becomes wider known, then everybody will win. The only problem is, of course, that if you have people who are taking taking the name and then making the schools very commercial. When I mean by very commercial, meaning that you don't have to train anywhere near as hard. Because one of the old things about Kajukenbo was that people, you hear stories about what it was like training in the old Palama settlement. Training's not over until there's blood on the floor. I don't know if that actually happened all the time. It was probably just like one thing. It's kind of like that thing. Where is it? Guru Asano was telling me once about how, there's that thing in the movie where Bruce Lee gets hit in the nose or the mouth, and he takes some blood and he licks it, and that, it gets all steeled up. Well, that supposedly happened. I say supposedly because I wasn't there, but it happened with Larry Hartzell. Somebody came in and, basically, took a sucker punch, and he did that lick thing and bang, and Bruce Lee thought that was really great, so he used it. But Larry Hartzell used to be the guy that would take on all the challenges in the old Bruce Lee Academy. He was this big guy that had been in the army and had no fear, discernible or otherwise. And that reality, you don't want to be a guy, you don't want to have an association where you're really busting your balls to make this thing work, and then somebody else is selling rank, and they can say, yes, in my Kajukenbo school, you can get your black belt in 18 months. And you go, huh? You can't even learn stuff properly in 18 months. But, it has been that most of the time. In the early days it was different, but nowadays it was like 7-8 year experience to get a black belt. It was
But
not.
that's how, in my opinion, that's the way it kind of should be. It's like signing a band if they've been together for 3 months. It's like, and they just started learning how to play. That happened all in the 1970s when there was this, and the 80s.
Well, actually, in the 60s. In the 60s, when the Beatles first came out, there were not a lot of novelty acts. Because it was like the Rolling Stones had won a prize for the ugliest band in the world, and other bands had won a prize for they would advertise people for longest hair, youngest this, most people in the band. I mean, just absurd stuff like that. So they had guys, little kids with long hair to their shoulders, who were like 8 or 9 years old, and they would give them some stuff. And I suppose, look at the Monkees. I mean, they were supposedly okay musicians, but an awful lot of that was people playing behind them. The Village People. The Village People, they didn't even really sing their own stuff most of the time. I was part of a production team that brought in the Village People, and when I was doing stuff like that in Montreal in the 70s, and they were there, and it was really amazing because they had these guys, the Indian, the construction worker, the cop, and
Mickey and Goofy.
Right. So they had these 4 guys, and they were dancers. And I think the guy in the front, the cop, was actually singing. But all the other stuff...
Yeah, it's all pre-recorded.
Never mind. It was pre-recorded. It was live, but it was 4 guys or 3 guys who didn't look at all like they could ever been in front of the stage, but they could sing like crazy. And they were the ones that were actually doing it. So they were singing along. They were making sure that they, sounded and looked like, when the guys were there at the mics, they had a monitor to make sure, oh, yeah, there's my guy, and he's now singing, I can sing.
Okay.
So it was kind of like live lip sync. But that was the kind of stuff that people did. People always pulled crap like that in the old days because it was, entertainment, is kind of like the old B.T. Barnum, keep them guessing, never give a sucker an even break, the whole that kind of stuff.
Yeah. There are all these incredible musicians that still have not been signed to record labels or whatever. And like right now, there's a guy who's almost... name someone's favorite guitar player that's in some band. And right now, there's someone on Crescent probably playing in a pub that can play 3 times as good as he is. But
the thing is,
it's a look. It's
I agree.
Age.
Well, there was something on the internet recently that somebody sent me, and it was really neat. It was this woman who had an instrument that was, from someplace in Southeast Asia. Mm. It had a billion strings on it, and it looked like an upside-down lute. A big round thing, and all these strings were there. And she played Jimi Hendrix All Along the Watchtower on it. And you realize that there are always going to be somebody who can mimic you, who can do exactly what you do in a mimicry type of way. But original thought, original music, that's where it's all about. That's why when people plagiarize stuff, it's, most musicians get really upset because, when you look at somebody and they call them a one-hit wonder, what if they didn't even have that?
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's the thing about martial arts. Martial arts is a really big, it's, your original thought, all that kind of stuff is really important. So, a lot of people will say, hey, well, you shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that. It's like the debt of gratitude that, people in MMA owe to the Gracies. It doesn't matter that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is no longer the preeminent style in MMA. The fact of the matter is, these guys put their asses on the line. They said, okay, anybody, you want to fight us? For more or less. I don't know if they were absolutely like that. I hear other stories nowadays, but they were basically saying, anybody want to fight us? You have a martial arts background, we want to fight you. It's not going to be any time limit. It's going to be until one of us gives up. And Hoist Gracie was about 180 pounds in those days, had his uniform on, looking a bit like a martial arts geek, and had these other guys in their shorts and their T-shirts and their whatever. But he took them all on, and he destroyed them. But what happened...
Well, you can't give too much detail away because we've already covered this in our Going Brazilian episode.
Okay, well, but not exactly. But anyway, but the thing is, so we owe them for that original thought, the idea that they could, do it. Now, of course, way back when the Greeks were having Olympic Games, and they had a couple hundred of those every 4 years, so they were doing Olympics for like 1,000 years. They had something called pankration, and pankration basically means anything goes. But so that basically meant that they had wrestling and they had boxing in their Olympics, but they had pankration, which was one of those things where you could do either. And wrestling, and their idea of wrestling, and they eventually became the gladiators in the Roman times, and they gave the pankration guys gloves with spikes on it, and of course, it kind of wrecked the whole thing. Anyway, so at the Dog Brothers, we do an awful lot of that kind of stuff, like everything goes, stick fighting, but with grappling and everything, because people will go, yeah, but you don't respect the blade. I said, well, how my quote to them is, look, if you suck at fighting, it doesn't matter what kind of fighting you suck at, you still suck. So you're going to have to learn how to get past that point. And so once you can get past that point of what you can't do, you can start applying the things that you can. So that's why I shout out to the Gracies. They did the stuff that they had to do, and it changed everybody's mind. I mean, no matter what you are, no matter who you are, no matter what kind of stand-up you are, you have to learn something to stop somebody from grabbing you and taking you down and changing that element of your game. Guru Inosanto told me that at the Machado School, Ray Boom Boom Mancini, a very well-known champion from in boxing, is now, at the last time I heard, he was a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but he's come up with a counter grappling game. So even though he's a grappling, as a purple belt or more, he's already really, really good. At the same time, he's come up with, by using that knowledge base, he knows how people will take you down. So by knowing what they can do to you, it's kind of like reverse engineering stuff. If I know what the aim is, if the aim is to have, a car that goes 80 miles an hour, fine. So you start with a car that goes 80 miles an hour, and then you reverse engineer it. Well, if you want to stop somebody from taking you down, you have to understand how they would take you down. So all that stuff is there. So shout out to them. But when it comes down to martial arts and seminars, you can learn an awful lot. Sometimes the thing that's really good about seminars is that they're mostly non-political. You can go to a seminar with Guru Dan. You don't have to have any political affiliation. No one's going to say, or try and get you to join some association. No one's going to say, oh wow, well, they will say, wow, this stuff's the best stuff ever, isn't it? But you don't have to agree with them. Whatever is the best stuff to you is the best stuff to you. You don't have to play idiotic games about it. You can play any games you want, and it works just great.
What kind of locations have doing seminars brought you to? It seems like in the last couple of years, you and Mom have been taking off on a plane somewhere.
Well, okay. The first seminars I did, of course, were in North America. I did Ottawa. I did the World Kobudo Federation. One of the first ones I did, and then I did Capital Conquest last November. Well, as I said, I was in Timmins. I've been to Vancouver and taught there. I've taught in San Diego, Los Angeles. I've taught in Hawaii, Texas, New York. Was it Philadelphia or the Philadelphia
when I was
area?
saying exotic locations,
I know.
mainly thinking of when you went to Russia.
Okay,
France,
well, yeah, I know. I was going to go down to it. It just sounds less
the exotic locations of Ottawa.
Okay, well, no, but once I had done that, then I received an invitation to go to Russia a few years ago, and I went to Russia and I taught a mini seminar in Amsterdam, and then I went to Russia last year and I came back and taught another seminar in Germany on the way home, and I taught one in Spain, and then I've gone to France. France was really great. They've got some really great people there, really good martial artists. But that's the thing. You start looking, and of course I've taught in Japan. Shout out to the Shinkali guys.
Oh yeah.
Ryan's other favorite place that he wants to go.
Yeah, one of my favorite places in the world that we both experienced at opposite ends of the spectrum.
I got a hotel room, and Ryan got the floor of a van, or what was it, a karaoke room?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
if you want to listen to the full story, seriously, I'm trying to get our hit count up. I'm like, we got like 11 episodes now, and we've covered so much. It's just like, go to Philip Gelinas visits Japan and Philippines and stuff, or a World Warrior Part 1. Like, it's incredible how two people could have two different. There is some show or movie about two people going to the same places, and two people get all the lucky breaks and stuff, and the other two people who thought they were going to have the best vacation ever got the
short end of the stick.
Short end of the stick every single time because the other people kept taking all their stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's what you were saying before, and the funny thing about Japan, I mean, it's like I had no anticipation of what was going to be in Japan.
Yeah,
but what happened is that myself and my friend Michel had first gone. We went to the Philippines in 2010, and we were over there, and we came back via Hong Kong. And it was great because he had some friends in Hong Kong, so we stayed there. I got to see an old student of mine, Kevin, who now lives in Okinawa, and he came over there, and we had a great time. The next year, we decided, well, because you're limited by you don't want to spend extra money to go places. So if, for example, most of the flights to the Philippines now go through Tokyo. So I contacted the people in Tokyo and said, look, would you be interested in me? I would like to come and see you. And the guys went, oh, wow, we'd love to have you. You're a high-ranking guy. You do the style we practice. Maybe we could work out something where you could come and do a seminar. So I said, okay, that'd be great. So it was amazing. I show up at the airport, and Roddy was there. Roddy was was one of their senior instructors. And anyway, he refused to let me carry my bags. It was kind of like, embarrassing because, I don't like doing that stuff. But anyway, he insisted on carrying everything. They came and picked me up. They put me in this great hotel. Actually, I was there with Michel the first time. And it was amazing. These guys treated us so well. It was almost embarrassing. He's like, wow, you kind of look for the cameras around because you figure that there's got to be something. And of course, I came back to Montreal with all these stories, and Ryan went, what? When I wanted to eat, I had to eat rice balls at the 7-Eleven.
That's true. But, I can't. Here I am, I'm only saying comparatively.
Oh, yeah.
Like your trip. I had an amazing experience. I love that country. I love how it looks. I love the bright lights. I will sleep on a floor. I will sleep on a floor full of thumbtacks to be able to go back there. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just was surprised of how different our trips were, but I wouldn't change my trip for anything.
Oh, no, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Well, no, I remember.
And the amount of respect I got from our Japanese friends over there is incredible.
Ironically, Ryan, I'm going to be back there in August. No,
it's out of pure jealousy.
No, it has everything to do with is that Mark Denny and I are going over, and we're going to be introducing Dog Brothers martial arts there. I mean, they already fight like crazy. They're really, really good fighters in stick fighting. But we're going to be making the official investment of time and energy, and we're going to be setting up workshops so that they know Dog Brothers as Dog Brothers. And I'm on the Council of Elders with Mark, and so we'll have half the Council of Elders there, and so we will be able to actually do stuff, and we will actually be able to establish a training group there. And by doing this, it'll allow them to set the basic foundations for what they need to do. So it's going to be great.
Well. Let me know if you need a documentary/personal slave. I'll sleep on your floor. I'll carry your bags. I'll let you hit me with sticks. I'll be like the dummy that they have in a women's self-defense class that gets kicked in the nuts all the time.
The big egghead guy. Right?
Yeah. No. That's my purse. All right, so we talked about seminars. That's kind of the basis of what we were talking about today. Mm-hmm. So what I want to know is just, you had a wife and kids and stuff. So
I still do.
Yeah, exactly. But when you would go to a seminar and stuff like that, naturally, especially in the old days, we'd come along too, especially if it was somewhere warm and fun, like Los Angeles, you being the world warrior that you are has allowed me to go to Disneyland at that tender age where I can't remember anything. And we've been to definitely a couple of places. Mm-hmm. What's it like traveling with, what's it like doing a seminar knowing that mom and us are whining at the hotel?
Well, people like to think that. I mean, of course, if that was my job, if my job was every weekend to get on a plane like Guru Dan does and go somewhere, arrive sometime late in the afternoon on a Friday, get to the hotel, eat, wake up at 8 o'clock, teach a seminar from, let's say, 9 to 4 or whatever version of it, it's 5 hours of seminar time, and do that 2 days and get on a plane either Sunday night or Monday morning, then to bring the family with you would be pointless. Mm-hmm. But an awful lot of the times we would do this and we would be there for a week. So it was almost like we used the martial arts thing as a way of, I don't think I've taken a regular, real un-martial arts vacation in 35 years. Mm-hmm. My very first vacation with Ruth, before anybody was born in our family, was to Bermuda, and the first thing I did was locate a martial arts school. I make no apologies. I mean, everybody knows that that's what I did. That's what I do. I don't fly kites. I don't do it. But I like to go to museums when I'm in those towns. But that's what I do. I do martial arts. I've never made an apology for it, because to make an apology for it would be to say somehow that it was wrong. But one of the most amazing things is that a lot of people don't realize is that Ruth is awesome. Your mom, my wife, is awesome when it comes to stuff like this, because you think that you're only dealing with the one person that's bringing you in, but you're not. You're dealing with their family too. And Ruth is a really personable human being. She gets to know people much. In 5 minutes, she knows more about people that she's just met than I do after 5 years. I mean, because she asks those questions. Hi, what's their name? Oh, do you have any children? What are their names? How old are they? Where do they go to school? What do they like? All these questions that you wouldn't even believe are unnecessary, but all of a sudden, people are very happy to answer. It's not like in my mind, I don't have the nerve to be so bold as to ask these questions. Whereas Ruth goes, yeah, this is what you ask, of course. Well, how do you know who they are unless you ask them a question? So as a result, Ruth is better friends with some of the people that I wish I knew than I am. She knows these people, and they are, they get along really, really well with her. And so, thank you very much, Ruth. You have been, you're not an impediment. You are a help. So.
Yeah. I remember this one vacation/seminar trip we went to where I gave Serena the chicken pox literally the day before we got there. We got to, what was it, Virginia Beach, I guess? Beach,
yeah.
Virginia Beach, where Serena spent the entire time in the hotel room.
Well, it was kind of funny. It was a funny hotel room. It was like, the hotel was occupied by all these people. It was kind of like a hotel where welfare people lived, and so it was not a very expensive hotel.
Well, it smelled like Cappy, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, and so we did a bit of a seminar. We stayed there for a few days. I think we probably would have moved to another hotel had we had the money. Whatever we were getting, however it was, we just decided to stick with this, and that's what we did. And basically swore to ourselves that we would. We would ask more questions before we would leave again.
Okay.
But one of our funniest things, Robert Reich, my friend from Los Angeles, who now lives, I think, somewhere inland. Anyway,
if you want to hear about his amazing house, you can listen to The Road to Dan and the Santo, our last episode.
Yeah, okay, well, anyway, so Bob invited us out there, and that's the thing. But Ruth became really good friends with Nalani, and the kids liked you, and the kids liked Serena, and there was more to it. But if I just sort of showed up, I would have been this guy that hung around with their dad when their dad wasn't flying, because he was a pilot, or he was a pilot, he retired, but a pilot. So there are benefits to both sides. So I wouldn't want to say that you guys were anything less than fantastic. And also, you don't feel guilty if you've got your family there. It may cost more money, but you don't have the stuff that you have to go through when you go home. And well, did you have fun? Oh no, it was horrible. I was so bored without you. Look at your script. Yeah, I was so bored without you. No, but this way,
hiding all the pictures of you hanging out in the lagoon.
Yeah, right. It's like
surrounded by mermaids.
Yeah. So I have done both. I mean, sometimes when I go to the Philippines, I have gone essentially by myself or with some other people who are paying their own way. But that stuff is expensive. I mean, that's really expensive. You go to Los Angeles, so it's less so. Mm. And also, Ruth has really good friends that she's met there. If I went there without her, there would be a bunch of people who would be going, "Where's Ruth?" including my friends. So yeah. There's a whole lot of both sides.
Well, Mom's accompanied you during all your World Warrior trips to
Europe, France, to Russia. Absolutely. I mean, she likes the people there. They like her. To Germany. She's now a buddy of Uli Weidel's wife. Mm-hmm. In France, Christelle, Eric Lalanette's wife, and Séverine, Frankie's wife. They like her. I mean, it's like it's almost like you feel as if you showed up without her now, you'd be going, no, go home and get her. We like her too.
Yeah, we want your skill, but we want her.
Her personality.
Her personality. Yeah. All right, well that's a nice touching little ending. Maybe we could throw in a couple of more, considering we're on the seminar subject. We've been going to these things longer than I can retain memory. Years and years of just band stuff. No, okay. I don't understand. I don't do drugs. So that's the thing. I look like I do. I've inherited your eyes. Everyone always thinks we're exhausted or stoned, and we're neither. Well, we're exhausted.
We're smoky.
We are kind of tired though, but you're tired. You have good reason to be tired. But I don't know, any funny anecdotes or stories about me before I can remember at seminars and stuff like that? Because there must be something.
Well, we have a great picture of you in Vince Black's backyard with a karate suit on. Yeah. Doing like a sidekicky thing and a teddy bear
It was a pound purry, Dad.
It was a pound purry.
How dare you forget that?
I don't know what a pound purry is. I guess I should. But yeah, we were doing that. And there's another picture that when we went to see, we went to a seminar, a Pekiti-Tirsia seminar in New York, and I'm holding a stick, a long staff, and you're kind of draped up behind me because it was funny. I was there, and you and your mother went off and stayed in a hotel because there's no way that you wanted to stay in the bunkhouse with us.
I remember that. You know what? That's the day I discovered the Munsters on television. They would play tons and tons and tons on Nick at Night or something. They would play tons of old shows, and the Munsters, they'd show like 5 in a row, and I'm like, oh man, this is awesome.
Yeah, well.
So, thank you, television.
Yeah, but you and Mom, we kind of stayed around the first day, and it was kind of like, no, out of here, bye.
The hotel was like down the road, though. Wasn't
it was. Yeah. But I mean, it was like you stayed there, and I stayed at the.
And nowadays, I'd be like, oh, this is cool. Everyone's wearing camouflage. Yeah. Bringing back to that stuffed animal, the pound purry. What's interesting is how I lost that thing. No. We used to have this store down the street from our house called Peretz. And I lost it in the store, and then when I went back to go get it the next day, the store had burned down. That was
a pound Bernie.
That was very traumatic. But anyway, yeah, I think those are the ones that kind of stick out of my mind. Watching the Munsters and giving Serena the chicken pox. It's funny how the human brain works. I'm like, it triggers other memories. I'm like, oh yeah, and that crappy Super Mario Brothers movie came out that year, and I bought the figures. I mean, you bought me the figures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because quit whining. I'm teaching.
Yeah, it was funny though because when you were into the Power Rangers, I remember going to Los Angeles and being offered the opportunity to go and hang out with some people in martial arts, but saying no. I had committed myself to go to every Toys R Us to find some kind of Power Ranger thing that had been, so I'd line up and I'd go in, and of course there were never anything left because people had been lined up since 2 o'clock in the morning, and I would get there at 10 o'clock in the morning, and until noon. Well, noon was, and I couldn't find anything ever, and I kept thinking that when you go to Los Angeles, they got to have this stuff first. I didn't realize that. The United States has a very efficient distribution system. Yeah. Every little town has whatever they ordered in advance. And it was things dry up like hot, like water in a hot desert's day. Yeah. Swoop, it's gone. But I tried, and it was just funny because, I sort of got on the phone with your mother and go, I've been looking for this thing everywhere. And yeah, but Ryan's really looking for it. He really wants it. I know, but I don't know what to do. It's all right. I
no, Dad, there is so much karma. By the time I have children, they're going to be the most spoiled little brats in the world. And you're going to be in a rocking chair going,
I'm not going to be in a rocking chair, okay?
No. All the Power Ranger stuff used to get me. When you saw Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger, did you break into a cold sweat?
No, I just made me realize that my experience was transferable to everybody.
All right, well, we got to go out on something else besides now. I feel like such a spoiled brat. I'm like, you could have had all these memories, and no, Ryan had to have his Megazord.
No, they are memories. They're just not the same ones.
Well, if it's any consolation, I still have it.
Okay.
Before we go, we definitely have to go on a little bit more of a positive note because I feel like crap. I feel guilty.
Well, no, I mean, but seminars are great. Seminars are people. I recommend people find something that you're interested in doing. It gives you just the intensity that a seminar will give you. being able to do an awful lot of the same thing in a very short period of time. And also the instructor, for the most part, when you do a seminar, the instructor is interested in conveying the information. So they'll do a lot more to make you aware. Whereas sometimes in a class, it's kind of like, okay, here's what it looks like. Here's the seminar. Okay, bam. Okay, do it. Practice 40 times. We'll be back in 5 minutes to change your mind. And then, people in a class, it's just like over an hour and a half. And sometimes you spend the first 30 minutes or so just warming up. And so when you just warm up, it becomes kind of like, oh my God, what am I doing? But if you're doing it, slowly but surely, it works out better.
And you make friends, right? And
make friends, yeah.
People, I don't know, the people hang out after the seminars and stuff. Like, I know after Dog Brother events, like everybody usually goes to eat at the same place. And
drink.
That was fun. That was like being in Valhalla after like Thor or something.
Yeah.
Valhalla.
Yeah, I have a big sword in my arm.
Van Hella. You might as well jump. Might as well jump. Kick. Yeah.
Actually, I saw him on a video. He does martial arts too.
Yeah.
He does sword fighting. There's a guy who was at the Canadian Black Belt Hall of Fame thing last Saturday night, and he was there. But he had a thing of him and what's his name?
David Lee Roth.
David Lee Roth doing DLR, they call him, doing the sword thing. But it was weird because they're all dressed up in the right suit and everything. The Japanese guy was doing all of this jumping around, doing stuff, and David Lee Roth was kind of like his clown. Like, here, cut this way, and I'm going to make myself look great. Okay, wow. So it's pretty funny. It's funny when you see people who are, are supposedly really centered, and they're like all of us. They're just interested in a little bit of self-promotion. They want to be, we all want to be a little bit better known for what we do than we're able to manifest. But it's very difficult because, it's what's hard. It's kind of like, how do you look? It's like when a woman dresses up. There's this thin line between being really, really sexy and being just a little bit over sexy. Mm. And then for a guy, there's sharp and there's, are you kidding? So there's a whole lot to that. So there's a bunch of stuff, when it comes to self-promotion and martial arts.
There's a thin line between meaning well and douchebag. Well, it takes a certain type of man to put on.
Say goodbye.
Yeah. It takes a certain type of man to put on a seminar that people walk away from. I hope the good people of Timmins enjoyed your time there, because you definitely enjoy your time there.
I did. Yeah. And I hope that, a little invitation out there, people... Guru Dan, he gives a great seminar. Most people leave there in incredulous shock to realize that this man knew as much as he knows and is able to give out that much as he knows. And so it would be great to have you. No emphasis on have to go or anything like that. But if you want to, we're there.
You got such enthusiasm about self-promotion as much as I do. I'm like, yeah, come see, my band. They're all right. They're okay, I guess. This is Tuhon and Son in a sweat box.
In a sweat box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So warm in here. All right, so come see Danny and Losanto at the... Sorry. So come see...
So come see Danny and Losanto at Gamma on the 21st and 22nd of June. Love to have you. Gamma's great. It's just downtown between Peel and Stanley on St. Catherine Street.
And don't forget to pump your Father's Day one.
Oh, right. And Father's Day in Ottawa at N1. We have Dog Brothers Martial Arts in the morning from 9 to 12. And from 1 to 4, we have Pekiti-Tirsia. Love to have you.
And you could still have all your Father's Day plans with your kids after 4 o'clock. There's tons of stuff to do.
Right. I mean, you're probably trying to go play golf there anyway.
Yeah, go see X-Men. That's awesome. All right. And by the way, we are on Twitter now. That's Twitter/Tuhon and Son. And follow us, and we shall lead you. Because right now we have like 5 followers, and that's just plain embarrassing. I don't know. I'm going to make a Facebook page or group to kind of like let people know only when episodes come out, but not bombard them with spam and, having to get these notifications every 10 seconds. Like, I completely agree where sometimes it's just too much. But literally we do the show for free. and I just get to hang out with my dad for at least an hour every week, and I think that's fantastic.
Well,
so
I think it's pretty fantastic too.
if we have no followers and we have no likes or whatever, we have no views, it doesn't matter. We're gonna keep doing it because every week I learn a little bit more about you, Dad, and I love you.
Ooh, I love you
now,
too, Ryan.
give me money.
Too late. I already did that.
Remember in '92?
No.
Remember in '92 that freaking Megazord? All right, thanks for listening to Tuhon and Son. I am Ryan Stick Gelina.
And I'm the father, Philip Tuhon.
You're a Mandela Tuhon something or other. I don't know.
Something or other. That's
I can't
right.
keep track of all your aliases there. A Prince.
Fingerprints.
The artist. All right. All right. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Okay.